Do you get it? Do you get it now? The video I'm about to show you, this lady lost her life for saying what she's about to say. But I've already said all this, and it's crazy how these videos come across my screen.
Welcome back to WHDT World News. I'm Gary Franchi, and joining me now is whistleblower from the World Bank, Karen Hudez, bringing the conclusion of yesterday's interview. Karen, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Gary.
Karen, when we concluded yesterday's interview, we were discussing, or you had brought up the new Constitution that was instated in the United States. So, is the Constitution that we know today in effect, or is there a different Constitution you claim?
Unfortunately, we are being snookered by the Congress because every 2 years they reintroduce a state of martial law. And we are not under our first Constitution. We are under this second secret Constitution. What that Constitution provides is that our tax dollars are going to pay interest to the Federal Reserve. They're not paying for any of the services that we need in our country. Instead, where are we getting the money? We're getting it from the poppy fields in Afghanistan and the drug trade. That's how we're financing our country. This is a travesty.
Now, you mentioned that the secret Constitution allows for the interest to be paid to the Federal Reserve. But isn't that the Federal Reserve Act that we know that was established in 1913, when it was passed on Christmas Eve? So where does that law fall into place?
You'll remember that President Lincoln was assassinated by a Jesuit. That was in order to prevent the greenback dollars that Lincoln had issued directly by the Treasury Department. And so what happened was the bank of that day was then able to continue to earn interest on the currency of the United States. That was why he was assassinated. And the reason why we had that second Constitution enacted in 1871 is that is when the Revolutionary War debts fell due. As a matter of fact, one day I opened my mail and somebody mailed me the financing statement for those debts that, together with the unpaid interest on the debts, had accrued to the trillions of dollars.
Now, the concept of a secret Constitution, some people might cry foul then, right? I don't believe a word you're saying because I've never heard of such a thing. How can those claims be substantiated?
Two ways. The first is that I will show you the minutes of the meeting of the Patriots who met and looked at the State House records in Carolina when that secret Constitution was enacted. And I can show you the financing statements for the Revolutionary War debt. That was the reason we got that second secret Constitution.
So is that second secret Constitution, is it, who is it in favor of? Is it in favor of the people or the corporate United States?
It's in favor of the banks. It's certainly not in favor of the people. What happens when you have a child is your child is given a Social Security number. They estimate how many taxes your child is going to pay over his or her lifetime. And they take that birth certificate and they issue it on the capital markets and they earn money on it.
Okay, so what you're saying is that the birth certificate itself creates a monetary value on the books with the Federal Reserve?
I'm saying something much worse, actually. What I'm saying is that when every citizen goes into the court system, they are not seen there as themselves a U.S. citizen. They're seen as the person who had their birth certificate pledged. You're there as a debtor. You're not there as a citizen.
So, because of the national debt, are you saying that Americans are they're just born into debt and there's nothing that they can really do about it? They're debtors in the system.
We have been converted from human beings that are citizens of the Republic of the United States into chattel. Chattel, that is a legal term for something which is property. We are now considered to be property of the Federal Reserve. We're not considered to be human beings and citizens of the United States.
That's a very strong statement. How do we reverse that? If that is in fact the true statement, how do we reverse that?
The first thing we do is we recognize it. We understand it. And then the second thing we do is we have that constitutional convention, which is our right under our first constitution, and we repeal that banker's constitution. We repeal it, we get rid of it, we do not want it, we do not need it, and we issue our treasury dollars backed by the gold out of the collateral account that has been offered to us.
Some people are very concerned about an Article 5 convention wherein you may have powers, money powers, that could inject themselves into that convention process where the Constitution is rewritten. A lot of people are very concerned that some of the very basic rights that are instilled and enshrined in the Bill of Rights would then be evaporated. Maybe the freedom of the press would be changed to only specific sanctioned outlets can speak freely, or even the Second Amendment would have to be rewritten to only allow certain people to carry firearms to protect others. So there's a lot of people who do have valid concerns with an Article 5 convention. Do you share those concerns?
I say that that is a very good proof to me of just how corrupted our media is. Because if we had a true media that was representing the interests of the citizens, they would know that that is not a concern whatsoever. Because what happens out of that convention is simply recommendations, which have to be voted up or down by 3/4 of the state legislatures.
Do you think the money powers would have enough lobbying capacity to lobby for those 3/4 of the states? I mean, if you think back to when the 16th Amendment was passed, even though it was passed illegally and it wasn't properly ratified by 3/4 of the states, it still became an amendment, and we now are under an income tax system. So if you think about 3/4 of the states ratifying an Article 5 convention, do you believe that the money powers could have influence in that process?
I would simply ask your viewers to take a good look at whether we have a second secret constitution, how we got that constitution, and whether we in the United States have the wherewithal to throw off those shackles. And if we don't, we deserve them.
So